All right, I'm gonna do an unhinged rant about immigration. It's really annoying to me how it's it's um it's very easy to manipulate modern people into accepting complete insanity. It's just shocking to me how easy a time they have with screwing us out of everything. And I have nothing against immigrants or whatever. Like, I gotta say, I don't really understand why. I understand why they want to come here. It's because they've been lied to and tricked into thinking that they're gonna come here and become some sort of celebrity hanging out in New York City or Miami and just money falling out of the sky. And well, for the first couple months, that's probably true. They get a free hotel, they get a free money and this and that, but it's only going to last a couple months, and then you're going to be thrown out on the street with nothing, and then you're going to be expected to work your ass off for pocket change. And that's the whole point of the whole thing, is to get cheap labor. And people sit here watching their rent skyrocket and their pay shrink, and they sit here wondering why. Well, gee, maybe the fact that we're flooding our country with the cheapest labor on earth might have something to do with it. Maybe that's why nobody can make any money. I don't know. It's been happening my whole life. I'm talking, 20 years ago when I was doing construction. The main reason I stopped doing it is the economy collapsed, but I saw the writing on the wall before that even happened. I was competing with people who are working for pocket change. Like, I'm doing hard labor all day for $7 and change an hour. That's when I started out. How are you supposed to live off of that? I couldn't really live off it. I was living off it. All my money was going to bills, and that's when it occurred to me, like, I'm a slave. I work for food and shelter. That ugly truth landed right in my face. And I was like, they talk about slavery and how wrong it is and this and that. Meanwhile, I'm working 40 to 80 hours a week, and I have nothing but an apartment, which they will kick me out of it the instant I lose this job and can't pay the rent. I'm a slave. They give me food and shelter. And another thing I realized is the amount of work that I was putting in was worth 10 times what I was being paid for it, because I was thinking to myself, if I had a piece of land and I woke up at the crack of dawn and worked my ass off all day, every day, I'd be a fucking millionaire. But I'm doing that exact same thing, and I have nothing. I can't even fix my car when it breaks down. And then, with that job I had, now, to their credit, they were trying to train me to be a superintendent, and I realized pretty quickly I didn't want to be a superintendent. So yeah, I would have been paid a lot to be a superintendent, relatively a lot, but I didn't want to do that for a living. I just wanted to do construction and eventually get out on my own. I didn't want to work. A superintendent is you gotta. It's not for everyone, and I didn't want to dedicate my life to it. But it is a good. It's a good job. But I didn't really want it. But my point is that when I was doing the labor end of it, I realized that this is slavery. And but I have to accept it because everyone else is accepting it. I mean, what am I going to do? Quit the job? They'll hire 5 more people working for the same amount of money. It doesn't even matter. Eventually, I kept investing money in tools and a truck and everything. Eventually, I got my pay up to like $15 an hour. But by that point, and I tell you what, a lot of the contractors I was working for, they didn't want to pay me that. But the only reason they would is because they really needed somebody with a truck and tools that they can send out to a job and not have to babysit them. So you know, and even then at 15 an hour, it was, you know, it's not like I was making a lot of money. And eventually, and I really had to fight for that with these contractors. They didn't want to pay that. Like, when I'd be searching around for other jobs that might pay me more, everyone was always like, well, we'll start you at 10 an hour since you got a truck and tools. If I didn't have a truck and tools, they would have started me at even less. But they're saying, oh, we'll start you at 10 an hour, and then we'll see how it goes. And so I'll never forget one time I was desperate for a job, so desperate for a job that I was calling contractors in the phone book and just being like, are you guys hiring? Because I need a job, because nobody was hiring. And so I get this one contractor who's like, yeah, I could use you, and meet me at Home Depot at 9:30 a.m., he said. And I'm psyched. I'm like, oh, wow, I got a job. Cool. I don't have to worry about being homeless. Thank God. Thank God I've got a slave job that's going to pay me 10 an hour with my thousands of dollars worth of very expensive tools. They're going to pay me 10 an hour. And so on my way to meet him at 9:30 in the morning, I'm on my way there, and I get a call. It's like 9:10. I've got like 20 minutes to get there, and I'm like 5 minutes away. I'm always on time or early. That's just how I am. Guy calls me up, and he's like, where are you at? I'm like, I'm on my way there. Didn't you say 9:30? He's like, I said 9 o'clock. And to be honest, I don't know if he said 9 o'clock or 9:30, but if I heard 9, I would have been there at 8:50. I thought he said 9:30. And he's being real disrespectful. He's like, do you know how to follow directions? He's like yelling at me. I haven't even started working for this guy yet. And so I was just agreeing with him, thinking to myself, I have to put up with this bullshit, otherwise I'm going to be homeless. And so then he gets off the phone yelling at me. And I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm on my way there. I get to the place pretty much. And instead of turning in there, I turned around and went home. And I said to myself, I'm not fucking putting up with this shit no more. If I gotta be homeless, that's what I'll do. I'm not accepting this anymore. These people who underpay me and disrespect me and think they can fucking yell at me and treat me like a piece of shit, fuck that shit. I'm not living this way anymore. And that's when things really started changing in my life. I was like, up until that point, I thought I was doing what was right. Like, but call it God, call it my guardian angel, something told me, you don't got to put up with this shit, man. Stop putting up with it, because you shouldn't let people treat you this way. Something just in my head was telling me, because here's the other thing. All my family, my uncles and shit, they're all encouraging me. Oh yeah, these are all boomers, mind you. Oh yeah, just go work your ass off, and eventually, this and that. They're so fucking clueless. And I'm not trying to, pick on the boomers. I know everybody does, but what the boomers don't realize is like the world we were raised in. Y'all motherfuckers have no idea. You really have no idea what shit is actually like. You know what I mean? Like, y'all motherfuckers, like my father, for instance, just went to the firehouse when he was 22 years old and got hired on the spot. He had to run up onto the roof of the firehouse with a fire hose on his back. They timed him. He did it in under a minute or whatever, and he was hired. And my father was set for life at that point. You think I wouldn't have fucking done that if it was an option? When I tried to be a fireman, which was my plan growing up, even though my father was like being raised by a 16-year-old kid. He never put any thought into anything. He never, he never directed me in any way, shape, or form. I'll just put it to you that way. So here I am. I was born and raised in New York. My father was a fireman in New York. Then we moved to Florida. So when I was in middle school and high school, I was in Florida. And so after high school, when I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a fireman. So I called the firehouse or something to find out how it goes, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to go to junior college or college and get these certifications and degrees. And so I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, okay, this is what I got to do. And so I go and I enroll in junior college and I get in there. And one of the things I have to take is algebra. And I'm like, I'm not good at math. I'm like, what the fuck does this have to do with being a fireman? Like, what kind of bullshit hoops? And I was like, and when I was talking to the fire people, they're like, oh, they're like, you got experience in construction. That's good. We look for that. You know, he's like, you'll get hired. You just got to get the, you know. So I'm thinking, oh, this is great. And then he's telling me, oh, but you got to go to junior college. And so I would have had to pay all this money to take these fucking junior college classes, like math and all this other dumb shit. And so I'm like, I mean, I would have done it if I could have done it. Here's the thing. I'm not good at math. I was never good at math. My buddy's girlfriend tried to teach me a little something because I was like, I got to learn algebra. And it was like, I couldn't, it didn't. I was like, let's not even waste our time. I'm not doing this. So, you know, these boomers don't realize is like, and here's the other thing. They're telling us in high school our whole lives that you got to go to college. Otherwise, if you want a good job, you got to go to college. And everybody listened to them. Everybody went to get these business degrees as if it's some magical ticket that's going to get you some super great job. Everyone fell for it. Except for me, because let me tell you something. I never liked school. I never planned on going to college. I didn't give a shit. To be honest, when I was 14, I wanted to work. It's just nobody would hire me, but I wanted to just start making money at that point because, to be honest, I was already worried about the future. Nobody prepared me for anything, and I was thinking to myself, I'll never forget one time I said, I heard that rent was like $400 a month. I would, you know, I was probably like 13, 14 at the time, and I was like, you know, if I get a job, I could afford to pay that. And my father's like, I remember him saying, oh, good luck finding a job paying that, like, you know, and it really stuck in my head. My father should have been a little smarter about things because he planted in my head at a very young age that it's hard to get a job that pays enough. So I don't know how much of an impact that had on me, but I can tell you one thing. I spent most of my life struggling to, you know, get my rent paid. And even when things were going good, some cataclysm would happen when I was doing the landscape and the hurricanes came through and all this shit. Anyways, when all is said and done, I've realized I wasn't, you know, everything happens for a reason. I wasn't meant to just waste my life doing all that menial, stupid, brainless bullshit because God blessed me with some gifts and talents that I should be using. But I gotta say, I felt like I never even really had a chance at it because it was just every job paid so little and the rent was always, it was always, you're just barely getting it. You're just barely getting by. And not to insult anyone or make them feel bad or anything, but everyone I know that I grew up with, they're all working jobs they fucking hate, putting up with bullshit, and I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't go that route. I'm really grateful I didn't go that route because they're all just getting fucking screwed, all of them. I don't know a single person who's not getting screwed. Now, you know, a lot of them got nice houses and kids and all that, but they're completely fucking trapped. They can't, you know, they have to put up with whatever their bosses shove down their throats. You know what I mean? Otherwise, they're facing a loss of everything. So, in my opinion, they're slaves too. They just got a nicer little shack to live in. You know what I mean? So, you know, I realized at a young age, this game is rigged, and not only that, I'm just not meant to, it ain't meant to be for me. And so, you know, they're telling us all in high school, oh, get this college degree. Everyone who did that got screwed. They got these loans that they can't pay, They ended up getting a job at, if they're lucky, some sales job like in that movie Office Space, where they gotta type up some bullshit TPS report. They're doing nothing, really. It's like, so, and then on top of that, you got the people who run this whole place flooding the country with the cheapest labor on earth. And, you know, and then we're sitting here, the birth rates are dropping, and they act like they didn't cause these issues. They act like these issues happen naturally. Why are the birth rates dropping? Because nobody can afford to have kids. People can barely afford to pay their rent. People can barely afford to eat every day. The only people having kids are the ones who aren't thinking. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not, of course there's exceptions to everything, but, there's, you see people, 5 baby daddies and all this shit. It's like, yeah, those are the people just cranking out kids and then getting government assistance and all this shit. And I'm not even, look, I consider almost every government employee to be a welfare case, because the reality is, if you followed these people around all day, I'm talking about all the bureaucrats and the Congress people and everyone who works in the government, they don't do shit. They do nothing. They're basically a welfare case who has an office to go to pretend they're doing something. All they're really doing is passing laws that screw us over more. It's a big fucking con, and it's like, it's absolute bullshit, and I'm really sick of it. But the truly amazing part to me is that they've socially engineered and brainwashed the left so thoroughly that these people think it's a good thing to flood their own country with foreign cheap labor. It's like, you gotta really have somebody's brain upside down to have them fooled into thinking that's good. And another thing that really boggles my mind is when they're like, oh, well, the white people don't want to do the jobs. Do you honestly think that we cannot function, we cannot feed ourselves, we cannot raise food without slave labor? You really think that? I mean, because I've been hearing this since I was a kid when I was doing construction. They're like, well, white people don't want to do the jobs. Dude, on every construction job when I was a kid, there was plenty of white people working. And there was plenty of every other type of people working too. But white people, we love construction. It's one of the things we're fucking best at. It's like, and then another thing that boggles my mind, they're like, oh, white people can't handle the sun. Dude, I've been in the sun my whole life, ever since I was a kid. It don't do shit to me except make me feel good and give me a tan. And I'll tell you another thing. On every job when I was working in Florida doing construction, sometimes doing roofs and shit, the white people, when the sun is beaming, we take our shirts off, we get a tan, we enjoy it. We're the only people on the job who actually like the sun. All the other people who are not white, they cover up. The sun like hurts them more than it hurts us. We like it. And I understand there's some super, fair-skinned white people that don't like the sun, but you don't really see them too much on the construction sites. And the white people I worked with in construction, when the sun was beaming, we'd be out there with our shirts off enjoying it. We were the only ones who enjoyed the sun. Everyone else was covering up, and you could see that the sun probably is not good for them, because their hands would be like so dark compared to their arms, which were covered up. And I'd be like, gee, it looks like the sun's like really burning them, With us, it just gives us a fucking tan. You know what I mean? So they fill our heads with all this bullshit that make us think we're less capable than we actually are. And so I seen something on Facebook this morning. Someone was like, 75% of the farm workers didn't show up. You know what? Good. Now they're going to have to pay more. And I don't want to hear that they can't afford it, because the people who run these places are filthy fucking rich. And it's the same all over the country in every business, in every trade. They act like, they can't afford to pay people a living wage. Dude, that just doesn't make sense. Nature is balanced. If they can't afford to pay people a living wage, they should be out of fucking business, because someone smarter is going to take their place who can afford it. Maybe someone less greedy, but whatever. But you got to be a real moron to think that we can't produce food without third world labor. You gotta be a real fucking idiot to think that. And I can tell you something else. they say nobody wants to do the jobs, then let those people eat grass and dirt. You know what I mean? Like, when I was younger, I had absolutely no problem waking up every day, working hard all day. I liked it. That's a great schedule for me. It works for me. I like to be physically tired at the end of the day. If they would have given me a living wage to go farm crops, I would have been more than happy to do it. I would have been happy as a clam all day doing that. You know what I mean? So it really bothers me when I hear that people think that, oh, we're all going to starve to death without the slave labor. It just goes to show you how far removed from reality a lot of the people on the left are. And don't get me wrong, I got my problems with the right too. I'm on the right, but I don't like the right either, to be honest. So, but it's the left that really is bothering me today, because like I said, I've been seeing these posts on Facebook. They're sounding the alarm because we don't have slave labor. What they don't realize is, without the slave labor, everybody gets paid more. You fucking idiots. We're not going to starve to death. We can feed ourselves without slave labor. Maybe you can't because you're soft and stupid, but I know I can. So I don't want to hear that shit. I mean, remember when Kelly Osbourne, this is a perfect example of just a clueless liberal, like, you know, they're just, they remind me, you ever read the book The Hunger Games? Those books are pretty good. But it reminds me of the capital city, where the people, they're so far removed from any type of hardship or anything, like, you know, that normal people would do. They're all just weird as fuck. They got, like, you know, they're all covered in weird tattoos and they got weird hair and shit, and they're like, they're well-meaning people. They're just completely clueless. I'm talking about the people in the Hunger Games in the capital city. And, you know, not to get into the whole background of that book, but there's a class of people that's like super soft and super kind of clueless, and, you know, yeah, they're like nice on a certain level. They don't mean no harm, but they're just, they fall for anything that the propaganda machine feeds them. You know what I mean? And so this is what the modern left reminds me of. They're so far removed from reality that they think that we can't function without slave labor. So remember when Kelly Osbourne, this is one of the funniest things. You got to look it up if you haven't seen it. She's on The View, which is just the perfect, you know, modern liberal dim-witted show with these people who just have no clue about anything because they've lived their entire lives in this liberal bubble where they don't have to do anything except say stupid things in front of a camera, and the money just gets dumped on their heads. So Kelly Osbourne is on The View, and she goes, she's like, if, you know, this was back in like 2017 or something, and she's like, if we send away all the illegal immigrants, who's gonna clean your toilet, Mr. Trump? And so it's like they're so unintentionally racist, it's hilarious to me. So in her mind, these people, you know, we need them to do all the servant slave crap, because, you know, and so she sees them as toilet cleaners, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, she sees them as like subhuman almost. And it's truly amazing to me. Like, who's going to clean his toilet? Yeah, they're going to have to pay someone a living wage to do it now. Because they don't have people who are going to work for $5 an hour who live in a one-bedroom apartment with 20 people in it. You know what I mean? And I'm not even against that. I believe in a normal functioning society that people should own some sort of family clan house or apartment building. You know, we've all been so brainwashed to be so isolated and, you know, independent that we're all just out there by ourselves when, that's where the foreign people get it right. They stick together. And, we don't do that. And that, there's strength in numbers. And this is why everyone's isolated, automatized, doing nothing. And I'm one of them. I mean, my parents were boomers. They were completely subverted and brainwashed. I'll just leave it at that, because they, in my opinion, if I was my father, I would have set my whole family up. My father didn't do that. You know what I mean? I'm not even going to get into it, but when all is said and done, it's really up to the man of the house to establish, you know what I mean? So, but for me, I planned on having kids, but at this point, I can't afford them. Even now, I can't afford them. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm working on. I'll just leave it at that. But so I'm finally at a point in life where I probably could afford some kids if I wanted to do that. But I got to be honest, at this point in life, I don't think I want to deal with it. And looking at just the way they would be raised in these schools with all this poisonous, toxic thinking put into their heads, having them questioning whether they're a boy or a girl, or having them questioning whether or not their ancestors are evil slave owners. And I don't want my kids, I don't want to deal with kids. I don't, these kids, I don't want kids raised by the state. You know what I mean? Because I don't think I want to raise kids in this modern world. I'd like to, but unless I can raise them the way I want them raised, man, this video is getting long. I don't want to deal with it, But it's up to God, you know what I mean? So if I end up having kids, I'll put it to you this way: I'm not going to do it on purpose, but if it happens, it happens. I'll put it to you this way: if I had kids, my life would be dedicated to setting them up to where they don't have to go through the things I went through. And I think one of the reasons my father it never even occurred to him to kind of set his family up is because he was raised in a world where first fucking job he ever even applied for he got, and it was he was set for life. And my mother, with the brainwashing, took hold on her at some point when she was like, I want a job too. And so she started, getting a job at a jewelry store where she was paid a lot of money. And on top of that, she would get jewelry for dirt cheap. When I was a kid, I had a Christ head with diamonds in the crown. I was wearing some badass gold pieces when I was a kid. Nice herringbone chains and shit. Everyone in my family, all my cousins, because my mother worked in a jewelry store, and she was getting us all fucking badass gold chains and shit every time Christmas came around and shit. So yeah, we were all blinged out when I was a kid. But, it's just... So, here's the thing. If it was up to me, I would say ship all the illegal immigrants out. I don't care if they're a criminal or not, because I want a strong economy. And it has nothing to do with, I don't like these people, or I don't got nothing against these people, but I got to say, so they're being tricked into coming here. That is the other thing. In my opinion, I don't know where they're coming from, but it can't be much worse than where they're going to end up here after about a year of being here, because they're going to end up working their ass off for a little bit of money. They're going to be working poor here. They're going to be the slave class. So it's like, in their own country, maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. But it's like, what's the difference of being poor where you're from or being poor in a new place? I don't even get it, maybe there's more opportunities here, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Here's the other thing. If you're fucking smart, you're going to create opportunities wherever you are. I've got a feeling you could put me in any of these third world countries, and I'm going to make shit happen. That's what I think. I'm really good with my hands. You know what I mean? So I don't get it. They think they're just gonna come here and they're gonna automatically become some sort of magical celebrity, rapper. You know what I mean? It's like well, here's the other thing: why the gang members and shit want to come here, because they think we're soft. They think we're soft and stupid. They're like, how could these people be so dumb to let us come in there and start banging out their women? And you know, they ain't gonna do shit. That they'll be called racist if they step to us and shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, and you know, they got men and women in the West at odds. We've betrayed each other. You know what I mean? So it's like they've brainwashed us to the point where everything we do is like detrimental to our own future, and it's unbelievably stupid. And I get it, we've been brainwashed and socially engineered, but it's time to fucking wake up, you know? So I'm not saying that everyone should go out there and start blaming the migrants themselves. That's not what I'm saying. It's not their fault. They were tricked into coming here, you know what I mean? But I can tell you one thing: if any of them think they're going to be disrespectful towards you or try to push you around or bully you, you better show them that this is your country and ain't nobody going to come in here and push you around in it, you know? And if you let them do that to you, then that's your problem. You know what I mean? I don't care about the propaganda and the brainwashing. I remember when I was younger, they would, you got to realize they've been working on us since before we could even think, since we were kids. This video's getting too long. But, so, look, here's the thing. Stop playing along with these motherfuckers. Start looking out for your own people. And I'm not saying that means we should hate everyone else, but you got to start looking out for your own people and your own future and your own country, and that's just logic. I'll put it to you this way: if we were like this thousands of years ago, we would have been conquered by everyone, and I mean everyone. Tribes with sticks would have conquered us because we're fucking soft nowadays. But the reality is, we conquered everyone. And so, remember that, and stop letting motherfuckers disrespect you and tell you how to think and how to be and all this other bullshit, and stop accepting anything less than what you should have. So, anyways, hopefully this video makes sense. This was a real rant right here. So, and like I said, I don't got nothing against nobody, but if you want to take it personal, that's up to you. I don't care about that either. I'm not here to placate and sit on the fence and make everyone like me. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And just look at the condition we're in. Nobody can afford the rent. Here's the thing: these apartments around here, Clearwater, Tampa, St. Pete, going for $2,000 a month, are not worth more than $500 a month. I'm not even kidding you. They're not worth more than $500 is being generous. I used to do construction. These places are trash. It's just a fucking box. You know what I mean? Here's the thing: I'd rather live in my car and not pay rent than pay $2,000 a month to live in a space not much bigger than this. A little bigger, sure, but you know, I'd be spending my slave days are over. I don't care if I gotta go live in a tent in the middle of the woods. I'm not I'm out the game, bro. I don't care. So, and I can tell you another thing: even if I was filthy rich, I would not be wasting all my money on rent. I'd buy a place. If I was rich, I'd have a place in Florida and a place in New York City, and I would own them both. I would not be paying rent. But here's the thing: even when you own, you got to pay all these taxes and shit. They're still milking you every month. Anyways, This video could be 3 hours long, so hopefully this makes sense. This was an incoherent rant for sure. Anyways, yeah, appreciate y'all. Thanks for the subs, thanks for the likes, thanks for the tips, thanks for the Patreons, and thanks for the members. And if you want a response to your comment, try to get it within the first 30. If you want to argue with me, be civil, and we can have a civil argument, disagreement. If you're not civil and you're insulting, I'm gonna try to ignore you. So I guess that's the end of that one. Yeah, appreciate y'all. Everybody have a good one, and I'll see you on the next one.